Hi, I'm Cautex, and Blizzard just announced that in patch 9.1.5, they're pulling the Ripcord, and once you've completed Max Renown with one covenant, you will be able to freely swap to any of the other covenants with no cooldown or restrictions. Now, assuming that the covenant swap process is something that could viably done on a boss by boss basis, that begs the obvious question of what would be the best spec and covenant combination for each of the fights in Sanctum of Domination. Now, there's a lot of optimization left to be figured out on pretty much every single fight in Sanctum of Domination, so there is a very real chance that everything I'm about to say could be wrong by the time that 9.1.5 goes live, but here are my thoughts on what specs and covenants I would pick for each of the fights if I could freely choose between them right now. Obviously, Terragru doesn't matter, so as of right now, I'd probably just stay Night Fae Arms, but honestly, who cares? For Eye of the Jailer, I would argue that Kyrian, Soulbound with Mikanikos might be just slightly better than Dreamweaver, and that's because Brawn is basically going to give you full value no matter when it procs because it doesn't have to worry about dodging the laser, and there's also no longer going to be the positional requirement of needing to stand near Ancient Aftershock. For the 9, I would again probably say that Mikanikos is just slightly better, but not by a whole lot, and that's mostly because I believe that you could probably get a second spear out before the fight becomes a purely single target encounter. Something worth noting is that from my memory of doing sims with cleave ads, I would expect that Kyrian Soulbound with Clea to be simming better for fights such as Eye of the Jailer and also the 9. Though keep in mind that Clea is a sim trap because it will not account for your Valiant Strikes getting consumed when people get low on health. For Remnant of Ner'zhul, I personally would stay Night Fae because I think it's a better choice, though Mika Nikos likely has less annoying cooldown timings, but Karain is actually low-key really nice on this fight because it can proc First Strike off of all of the orbs, which happen roughly every 30 seconds. Also, having Soul Shape is just incredibly handy on this fight, and I personally like to use it to handle Malevolence. For Soul Render, Kyrian with Mika Nikos is definitely the best choice, and that's because you can have Spear and Warpbreaker for every set of ads, and plus you can run Elysian Might, which slaps in its own right and also will help keep the ads clumped up. If you're doing this, you have the option of running Triple Potency with Piercing Verdict for a bunch of burst damage and also Rage, or you could run Hammer of Genesis for a bunch of haste that ends up being translated into more boss damage. You could go Kyrian Fury as well and do insane ad damage with Elysian Might, but that's more or less contingent on whether or not you have a monk in the raid going to town on the ads. For Painsmith, purely in terms of DPS, I think it's basically a wash between Mika Nikos and Dreamweaver, though I think that Mika Nikos will require less holding of your cooldowns to get them lined up with the ads after each intermission. However, I think that there's a very real possibility of Brawn procs getting utterly wasted by that intermission. And of course, being Night Fae obviously means that you have Soul Shape, which is unbelievably nice to have on this fight, plus Dreamweaver gives you Pod for when you make silly mistakes. For the rest of the bosses, keep in mind that I have yet to personally experience them, so anything that I say from here on out will be extra speculative, though I have done a lot of looking at logs to try to figure out what I'm going to be doing when I get to those fights. For Guardian, I think that it's going to be Dreamweaver Arms, though not by a whole lot, and that's purely based off of single target sims and the current state of the Warcraft logs rankings for DPS warriors on the fight. However, if you can somehow convince the other DPS in your raid to take a nap once the boss hits 35%, Venthyr Fury with Sinful Surge will be very strong, but only in that case. For Fate Scribe, my gut feeling is that Night Fae with Karain is probably better, though Spear tends to line up really nicely with Warbreaker for the ads that come after you kill the one that your tanks have to kite. There is also a Kyrian Fury Warrior that's casually just sitting on top of the DPS rankings for both specs, and is also 3,000 DPS ahead of the second best Fury Warrior parse. Obviously, most of that DPS is going to the ads, so it is partly just padding, but there is still potential because you're basically going to have all of your cooldowns up for every instance of ad spawning. For KT, the optimal play looks to be Kyrian with Mika Nikos, and that's just because Spear works out much nicer for ad timings, and also you can potentially use it to help control the fixate ads if you really wanted to. And there's no particularly great benefit gained by being Night Fae, other than maybe Pod, but really, if you're playing the fight right, there's not really going to be much risk of you needing to have that Pod to prevent you from dying and then having to get rezzed. Plus, there's no particular benefit from having Soul Shape on the fight. Finally, for Sylvanas, I think that Dreamweaver is probably the best play for progression, as it's going to provide more damage during Phase 3, though Karain is really strong during farm because of Wild Hunt Tactics being active for the entirety of Phase 1 and Phase 2, and then also you're going to get a lot of First Strike procs during Phase 2. This is combined with the fact that, as far as I can think of, there's nothing really particularly noteworthy that you would be able to gain by being Kyrian for the fight. Anyway, I just wanted to help spread the news that the Ripcord is finally being pulled, and also give my thoughts on some of the optimizations that are going to be opening up as a result of that. As always, tell me why my opinions are dumb, or tell me what you're most looking forward to with 9.1.5. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and subscribe for more.